This is my Studer A810 tape recorder. It's the one I use the most often. It's very computerised, very technical, and got brilliant sound quality to it. The recorder at the moment is in record mode. Currently recording from BioShock Little Sisters, written by Moby. The recorder has several controls for the inputs and outputs. We've got a monitor inside speaker for monitoring between the inputs and outputs, individual channel select. You have variable output controls and input controls, and also down here you have a slider control. Now playing the tape. Being a four-head system, you can go from what's coming from the tape to what's coming in. The sound is practically indistinguishable. The machine is running at 15 inches a second. When the recorder is properly set to the individual type tapes, the sound quality becomes even better. This recorder has the time code unit with it, currently not powered up. This will allow you to synchronize this machine with videotape. So for instance, if you're playing a tape which has had the soundtrack recorded separately, say for instance on a Nagra or something like that, you plonk it onto this machine and then you press your lock button, which is these two here, and once the video recorder starts playing and sends out the time code, which would be read out here, the machine will then automatically spool to that particular point of the tape where that time is on the tape. If you rewind or fast forward a video recorder, this machine will keep to it, so it keeps the sound in perfect lock at all time. The VU meters can be set in two different functions at the moment. They're set in standard mode. What you can do is, by removing the meters and adjusting a jumper switch inside the meters, you can change them to PPM drives so that the meters have a very slow decay. You've got your record, enable and disable. You have your input select, your output select, and if you're doing, say for instance, only recording on one channel, you can use a synchronize setting, which means you can record the left channel, replay the right channel from the same head, which means that you don't get any time delay between the two heads. The head block has a large metal covering, or the hum shield, which protects the heads. We have on this side here the erase head, which erases the left and right channel and the timecode channel. The record head, which puts the sound onto the tape, and the replay head, and then over here the timecode head. There's also a splicing button. Not very common on the British machines. Quite often the British machines use the splicing block because of the worry of an engineer pressing that button by accident and splicing a tape. This machine has a Varuspeed control on it, which allows you to go plus and minus 100%. And it's very, very accurate. The control functions, the main ones are here: rewind, fast forward, play, stop, record. Above it here we have this trans button, reduced. What this basically does is, this is known in the trade as archive winding. using that function, it will rewind and fast forward very slowly to protect the tape. Lock and lock start is to do with the timecode. Lifter will drop the tape lifters when this tape's in spool mode. Then this function here, the fader, the machine will not go into play until the faders are operated. So if I put them back down again to 0 and then pull them back up again, and also by pressing that and that, you can see the reels turning slowly. If I press play again, fast forward again, you see how the machine picks up. Underneath this main controller you have all the plug-in cards. If I So you've got here the main CPU board, which controls the recorder and controls everything electronically. The tape deck controller, which controls all the tape tensions for spooling, rewinding, fast forward and stop. This here, the serial bus converter, which you can see the lights flashing away there. This allows you to be able to connect it to another machine or another computer. This here is to set all the levels, your repro levels, record levels and such like and so forth. Pressing the button there will give you a reading here. Not a very accurate reading, but on the top of the machine it will give you a second reading, which is a very accurate reading, and then you can set, say for it's not very clear in the camera, A810. You can set the you can set it digitally what you want the output level to be. Next to that we have a timecode read and writer. Next to it you've got the timecode delay unit, then the HF, record, reproduce and replay left channel, and the same again for the right channel. In the middle there's a hole which will allow you to have a signal test generator and a mono stereo switch. Underneath the main panel we have a selection of dip switches which relate back to the control buttons. Where we saw trans or archive wind and lock, you've got X, Y and Z. You can configure those buttons to do other things. For instance, if this machine was set up for filming, you'd be able to set up different styles of timecode locking. For instance, this machine's not set up for that. It's set up for a standalone machine that it is. You can also set, say for instance, the key Z to tape dump. So when you press that, instead of the tape recorder doing a fader control, instead of doing that, when you press play, the right hand spool doesn't turn, so the tape goes off for editing reasons. Next to it then you've got a set of diagrams indicating the rest of the dip switches, which tell you whether or not what the mono stereo switch does, or it's a type A, type B, tape select does, whether or not it's stereo or not, what speeds it can do, the periphery controllers, which for instance covers things like individual recording. You can either tell to the machine that it can only record stereo 2 channels at the same time, or individual channels, which is what this machine's set up for. Then it gives you a bit of information about the HF driver and what the pinouts mean and what they'll do, the record amplifier and the reproduce amplifier. And then at the end here you've got the line amplifier. If the line amplifier has to be correctly set up, depending whether the machine has or has not got VU meters, or whether or not it's got faders or anything like that. Incorrectly set up and there will be no sound out of this machine.